Okay, here we go. So we had hoped that someone was going to be here who had actually been involved in a Canby Dems group for a number of years, and she was not able to make it. But I'm wondering if the Canby folks can speak to any of the iterations from the past, like the Progressives group and earlier Dems group, anything about the Canby context. And we've got 7 minutes for this.
I cannot. I did not know there was a Canby Progressives group at all until very recently.
Great. Okay, so that being the case, David, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, best I can. Being part of the Canby community for the last 4 years, the Canby Progressives group has come up recently as, a way for progressives within Canby to communicate and, share, up and coming news stories and things that, are applicable to the progressive community here in Canby. What few of us there are, it seems like, but it has been very valuable to, have a good active community of progressive community members and, sharing input.
Awesome. And that is mostly via the closed Facebook group. And if I'm not mistaken, and what Sarah Spoon told me, who regretted she had something come up with a child, and then I think also at the school district meeting tonight, there's something around trans students and needing to support trans students or that issue. So I know we've lost Sarah Hepler to that meeting. But Sarah Spoon had mentioned that the Canby Progressives were meeting earlier before COVID. But from what I understand, just kind of a core 2 or 3 who are trying to keep everything going. Dean, are you in a position now, or if you do a little looking up, to offer some numbers about the current balance of Democrats versus non-affiliated versus Republicans?
I can. I have to. Let me see.
Because we can
so
come
I
back.
had that spreadsheet open. I just have to go to the right tab. Hold on.
Okay.
So, Canby has, so this is city boundaries, 2,931 Democrats, 3,673 Republicans, and other, which mostly is unaffiliated, but it includes independent party and various small parties, 3,551. I don't have that broken into percentages. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody here that there's more Republicans than Democrats in Canby, but there are 2,931, and compared to 3,673, I mean, it's not a huge deficit. Democrats have to realize they're not alone, and they're a very big minority. And I think this is something we often find out, because I worked, for example, Vidal's often has been in Eastern Oregon districts, and our town is very purple, actually. Democrats and Republicans are almost equally balanced. But we've dealt with a lot of places farther east, and Democrats often think, I'm the only one. Well, you're not. There's plenty of other Democrats, and it's only fair that you get together and make your voice heard.
Great, thank you. So 3.5 minutes. Anybody else have anything to share about the Canby context? All right, I love it. We are moving along. So let us have, okay, this is the more significant part of the evening. So we're going to let each speaker have 7 minutes. And this is an idea swap. What has worked well for other Democratic groups in small rural communities, all of which happen to be in Senate District 26. And so Canby folks, please take what you like and leave the rest. And if you're looking at the agenda in the yellow highlight, there is a link to a document where, just for the good of kind of capturing some ideas, you could make notes of anything that you think might be worth following up in Canby. Stephanie just joined us, which is fabulous. Dennis, we're going to let go first just because he needs to leave early. So 7 minutes for Dennis. Take it away.
Okay, so we call ourselves the Mountain Progressives, and this group is kind of a subtext from the Oregon Trail Democrats. I'd been involved with them prior to the Mountain Progressives. And the Mountain Progressives have been kind of getting together for about 10 years. It came out of Peter Norby was running for House District 52 state representative in 2012. And he had this novel idea, which Walt actually gave him the idea. And Walt is now running in House District 51 of limiting contributions. And so Peter bought off on that. And so he limited just to $50 donations. And in essence, it was a very interesting campaign because he relied extensively on people power, volunteer power, to the point where he was going against an incumbent, Mark Johnson at the time, and he got within like I think someone can correct me, but less than 5 percentage points of losing it just by less than 5 percentage points. So that was quite phenomenal, and it really energized people. And then after that was done, Peter, and he lives up here in the mountain area, or has. He just recently moved, but he said, I want to keep these juices flowing. How can we do this? So we had a kind of like an afternoon get together at his place. And predominantly, most of the people that lived up on the mountain area, and I defined the mountain area from basically about halfway up from Sandy, it's called Alder Creek, up to Government Camp. And in essence, he invited all these people from his mailing list, from his contribution list. That was the beginning. And we sent out invitations, and 20 people showed up. And so we started talking about the format that we wanted to do and what we wanted to do. And it came to a once a month kind of gathering, and we rotated around in restaurants. And the email list grew from those 20 to there's like 72 people on this email list. But I'm going to tell you right now, I believe there's probably 35 that actually look at it, and I'm going to try to purge it after this election cycle to qualitate it. But and it became a format or forum for all of the candidates that are starting to mount their campaigns to come in and visit with us. And of course, since COVID happened, we went to the Zoom thing, which I think a lot of the candidates appreciate because basically, they can do it from the comfort of their area and not have to spend an hour's drive to get up here. But I guess the really important thing is that we kept it going, and I'm going to really be truthful about it. Probably over half the people that are constant attendees are educators, ex-educators. And so I think that kind of just draws to that area of people that want to serve other people. And again, we have local things. We try to pass a park district here recently. We have a CPO that's starting to reform again. So that it has become a conduit for those type of discussions, not just campaigns, but other things. And sometimes we've had environmental presenters about salmon runs and trout unlimited and stuff like that. After this election, I'm not sure how this is going to work. We might go to more a quarterly thing. I don't know. We're going to discuss that as a group, but I think it also will probably ramp up during every election cycle. So we'll have an opportunity to get to know the folks, and we may go back to live venue too, but we had a great place, this restaurant that didn't do a lot of business. So consequently, we had this room in the back almost to ourselves. Well, hey, guess what? That restaurant went out of business. So now we're to the point where we have to rotate around in different restaurants. And that sometimes becomes very cumbersome. So anyway, I'm open for any questions, but that's what we've been doing.
Great. Any questions for Dennis? Got a couple minutes. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis.
And I'm going to stick on for 10 more minutes and then I have to go.
Okay. Well, let's let Stephanie jump in. Stephanie Nystrom, 7 minutes on the clock. Help yourself.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Nystrom. I'm from Corbett, which is in Multnomah County. Multnomah County actually runs all the way to Bonneville Dam from Portland. So I also got involved in the elections in 2012 and worked on Peter Norby's campaign. I was his volunteer field director for Multnomah County. And so we've been building the organization since. Some things that we do. So John and Julie Christensen host what's called the Corbett Issues Forum. And so most months, not every single month, but most months, that they'll have some topic of conversation. And some conversations have been about gun control or farming. It runs the gamut. So I think we took this from the Sandy group. We started doing mailers, I think in 2012, and we've done it every election since. We mailed the slate card and candidate literature, and we put it in envelopes, or we use a postcard mailer, and we list all of the things that we've endorsed. And so we send that out to all of the people. It's harder in the rural areas to go door to door. We do have a little piece of Gresham that we do actually go door to door and drop literature there. But for the more rural communities, we do mailers. And so everybody's going to come over to my house actually this Saturday, and we're going to get our mailer all ready to go so that we'll put them in the mail on Tuesday so that they get delivered with the ballots on Wednesday. And let me think what else. We've done parades, just like from the school to the Grange. So it's like a mile. We've done sign waving events, which they do in Sandy as well. We just stand across from the school when school's getting out and wave signs for our candidates. We had a horseback canvas. So everybody on their horses went around and talked to neighbors that way. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, we do annual road, or we have adopted 2 roads, Corbett Hill and the Scenic Highway. And so we have our Corbett Democrat signs on those roads. And then we, as a group, will get together about quarterly and do, clean up the roads. That's all I can think of right this second.
Outstanding. Great. Any questions? All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you. I have been very impressed by, everyone I invited, I've been impressed by, and I think Corbett does some particularly creative things. Okay, let's just keep marching along. I've texted Serena about the Wasco Democrats, haven't heard back yet. Susan, would you step in and talk to us about the Oregon Trail Dems? 7 minutes or thereabouts.
Well, I have been around since about the beginning, almost, when Walt and everybody got it going. But I was thinking, we do sign wavings. We've had monthly meetings for ever, and then we have a Christmas party, which is always fun. And we do this picnic that was in September that you came to. And when we first started, we called ourselves House District 52 Democrats. And then when Susan Gates arrived from Texas, or wherever she was coming from, Texas, she thought we should have a name, a better name. So we changed it to Oregon Trail Democrats. And we met at restaurants, and we met, now anyway, for quite a long time. We've been meeting. It's a really great spot in the Clackamas County bank building, which was an old theater when I was a little girl growing up. And so, it's a nice room, and then it's got a conference room in the back. So anyway, we've been there for a long time. And of course, we did not meet during COVID, and then got going on Zoom. But I can't remember, Dennis, do you remember when we started doing slate cards? I don't remember exactly when we started that, but it seems like quite a while. And on the Neighborhood Leader Program, which, actually, we used to have a peace vigil out on Highway 26. It wasn't technically an Oregon Trail project, but it was all Oregon Trail people and a few other folks. And that was really neat. Anyway, got people to join with us and stuff. And let's see. Well, Stephanie ran. We really, it was just so great, to have what was I going to say? I'm sort of tired. I'm sorry. But completely lost that thought. Dennis, you don't have anything to chime in on, do you?
Well, the other thing is that through Susan Gates, we became a PAC, which
Yeah, that's right.
really assists our endeavors of funneling money. We have a $20 a year, volunteer contribution or donation, and we're able to, the budget's not that big, but it does get up there in a little bit. And this year we actually had a blue in 22, which the Clackamas County Democrats have actually stole that name from us. We started with a blue in 22 program that we tried to raise, and we did raise $5,000 independent of the other monies that they would get, to focus solely on social media endeavors and advertisements and stuff like that. And we had an instructor from high school who that's his forte, and he put on a training session for us and started getting us rolling. And so there's a couple that were from Louisiana that's moved up here, Ken and Wendy Holiday. And anyway, they are kind of our social media folks, and we've been having the campaigns give us their content, and then we've been putting it out. And then at the same time, it does show Oregon Trail Democrats, so it's almost like a dual purpose of getting the candidate's name out and getting our name out too. But the biggest asset is it being a PAC, but it also is a liability where you have to do things properly when you get donations. Just like at our picnic, it really upsets some people when we say, you have to document the value of your potluck meal that you just brought on this form. And, most people kind of say, well, but that's because we are a PAC, and so that's where that comes from.
Nice.
I don't think there's anything else I can add, but thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So for both of the groups, do you have, I'm assuming, how do you get the word out? Do you use MailChimp? Do you just send out emails? How do you do the communication?
I would say it's been emails. We don't have we have a Facebook site now. We have a website, but I mean, way back when, we did phoning and flyers and stuff, but more recently we do, Susan Gates always kept a big database of people that had expressed interest or joined, and would send out email blasts to them. But now times are changing, and so
and we do show up in the pamphlet, the Sandy Post. There is under meetings, it shows up there sometimes too. But I guess emails and word of mouth have always been a past practice of getting information out.
Right.
And our meetings are more low key, so we don't put anything in any publication. So, but like I say, it's been pretty consistent of 20 plus people, and I say there's 30 people, and usually about 20 show up, 15 or 20 sometime, most of the time.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'm gonna have
Okay.
to leave now, okay? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, that's quite all right. Thank you so much for being here. This actually is a good wrap down for the time. And let's move on to the fourth of our groups, and that is the Wasco County Democrats. And fortunately, we do have the treasurer present. Dean, would you chime in and share some things about the practices and activities of the Wasco County Dems? You're muted.
How do
You're
I
muted.
check out? How do I check out of this meeting?
Oh, just
I'm
there's
sorry,
a
I was,
red hang up. There's a red hang up, or you
Oh,
can
yeah,
just
I
close
see it.
the
Okay,
tab.
thank you. Bye, Stephanie. Good seeing you.
so, Wasco County Democrats are proud to have, we believe, the only full-time Democratic Party office, county office on the east side of the Cascades. Part of that is that we have a building owner who's a supporter and is not really charging us market rate. Nonetheless, it's been a challenge and we're happy to be there. We're doing a social media campaign for our 2 state legislative candidates. We think it's quite an interesting case that in the first year, the Dalles has joined these new legislative districts, that the Democratic candidates are both from the Dalles. And actually, so is one of the Republicans. That's a whole different thing. So we're trying to come through in help of our candidates, and I'm not sure what else we want to say. We have a relatively purple county. I don't know if people think we're deep red because we're considered to be Eastern, but we're not. The county leans red. The Dalles is very much purple. And Democrats can win countywide races on occasion when we get the right candidate and the right campaign.
Can you say about how often the group meets, about how many who show up? Is it in person, online? What kind of business and activities happen throughout the year?
So Wasco Democrats, we meet on the second Tuesday of every month, like tomorrow. And of course, it always used to be in person at the library, then it was never in person. Now we're alternating and generally going towards hybrid meetings. Those of us who live in town kind of like getting together, but there are others who live a little farther afield and they like to be able to just go on Zoom. Actually, if you know, the state Democratic Party does small grants to county parties, and we got one and used that to pay for some fairly high quality equipment with which to have these hybrid Zoom meetings. You know, that stuff is, I mean, it's not real cheap if you want to get good quality stuff. And so that helped us along there. It's something to keep in mind. We, at our meetings, usually the first order of business is to have a candidate speaking. Of course, there isn't always one, but, or some speaker of interest. And then we have our business afterwards, which is usually fairly brief. We're not a big county. Total population is 27,000, much different than a lot of what you folks are dealing with. So it's a much smaller and cozy affair. And since we've gotten this office, that's really been a big thing for us. Is it's been a resource around the area, not just for us, but Democrats in surrounding counties have found it useful. And we actually are to some degree a resource across the river in Clickitat County, in Washington too, because none of the Democratic parties in this area have an office. And so in 2020, we were producing actually a lot of campaign materials, including for Biden and races like that, because before they had their stuff available, we produced some. And so it was quite popular. And this year we're not producing the materials because the candidates have their own, but the offices are there. People come by to pick stuff up and we can meet our canvassers there. It's nice to do it in a place, it's not somebody's home, which some people don't feel comfortable with. And some people don't want to do that at their homes either. So it's a convenient thing overall, but it does has tended to absorb a lot of our energies and our funds to make sure that we can keep that office. So it's our concentration. And right now, just trying to keep people in there so it can be open. Right now, it's staffed 11 to 1, 5 or 6 days a week, and a little bit extra.
Yeah. Well, as someone who attends periodically, I think it's important to note I've been impressed by some of the special events and how broadly, I'm guessing maybe 3 times as many people show up for things like an ice cream social or a candidate forum sort of meet and greet that also had pie. So there's this broader network, and Dean, do you know how many neighborhood leaders? Actually, Debbie just showed up, and maybe Debbie knows how many neighborhood leaders there are in Wasco County. So it's this interesting set of expanding circles. And would you say it's maybe 10 to 15 people who are the core that attend the meetings, and then you've got maybe 35 to 50 who will come to special events? And then, of course, a much bigger mailing list, like maybe 100, 200.
I guess I thought had been for Debbie. Our meetings get 15 to 20 people. Events can range widely. I think we learned at that social event you're referring to that free homemade ice cream is a big draw. Keep in mind that the Dalles is a pretty hot place, so that certainly helps. I'm sorry, did I miss another part of the question? We definitely have more than 10 or 20 neighborhood leaders. Obviously, Debbie has the updated numbers. She just sent out the material in the last few days. And
We
I
have
to add up
40.
this week and do more. 40. Okay, Debbie, why don't you take over? Tell us where we're at.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
And Debbie, I should say you have a special section in the agenda, but is there anything that you can chime in about regarding the structure of the Wasco County Dems, activities, successes? Because you are, if I'm not mistaken, the secretary, the vice treasurer, vice chair?
secretary.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say that, there's a pretty small group of people who do most of the work. It would be definitely fewer than 10. But, when there are events, we'll sometimes get, 30, 40 people to turn out. And when there is work to be done, like postcard writing or letter writing or, taking signs for candidates, we have probably closer to 70 or 80 people who will get active during a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So and then probably about 350 on our mailing list who want to be there and still get the news.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Serena, who was not able to be here tonight, had shared with me before this meeting that she said, well, basically what I'm going to say is you just have to keep doing those small steps and slogging, and it's hard work and it looks like it's not going anywhere. But when I hear those numbers, I think they are the fruit of that consistency and that engagement. It definitely builds a foundation. Okay. And for those of you who are newish to our meeting, we have a pretty tight agenda, and I'm wanting to honor people's time by keeping us moving along. We are in section 4 of the agenda. Katie, could you splash that into the chat again in case anyone wants to see it? This is the time when folks representing the campaigns will get to speak. And so I'm very pleased that we will have 3 of our campaigns represented tonight. And why don't we start off with Erica? And Erica, if you would take up to 4 minutes, and if you want to make it a little shorter, maybe we can have time for questions, but we'll give you a 1-minute warning and off you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Raz, and thank you for having me. I'm just really proud of all the work that I know you all have already been doing. This program, this organizing program, by the way, I work for DCCC, which is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and we have put those resources and all of everything we've got to making sure Jamie gets elected for the new CD5. So what we have been doing so far is phones, doors, and texting, as well as with the campaign, postcards, letters to the editor, yard signs, and so many other really cool things that people are just kind of putting together on their own as well. So there is opportunity for, the sky is really the limit for whatever it is that you are interested in doing. We have done some joint canvases with Raz and the team, as well as a lot of other Clackamas local candidates. We try to work together as much as possible so that we can multiply the effect and the effectiveness of what we're doing. So we've also done joint canvases with Libra Forde's campaign, and as well as Anessa Hartman's campaign, and Mark Gamba's campaign, and just a lot of other House District leaders. Catherine McMullen is one of our, we joint canvass with Catherine McMullen's team all the time, and as well as Catherine, she likes to knock on doors as well. So just really glad that we are having this space to say, hey, we've got, I'm here to support. If anyone wants to, say, hey, I'm trying to get the vote out for Jamie in my neighborhood, or I have a couple of friends, we have the tools and the resources for you. And I will put our Mobilize link in the chat. That is just where we post all of our volunteer opportunities. And as well, you can always check the website, jamieForOregon.com, just to see what's going on with the campaign. So thank you so much for having me and giving me a couple moments. Y'all
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending the time. Anybody have any questions for Erica? Okay. And just to reiterate, we are recording this, and I'm hopeful that there are a few folks who are unable to make it tonight who will then be able to watch this. I know it's sometimes harder to make that commitment to watch after it's already happened, but there are some really, really good ideas being shared tonight. Kathy, my apologies. I forgot that you were here for Catherine McCullen. So, one of the things that I think is important to note is, even though I'm running for a state office, the number of my constituents is significantly smaller than the number of folks in Clackamas County. So I think, both Libra and Catherine's races, Catherine's
yeah,
are, sorry, I was looking at you, really important. So Kathy, do you want to jump in and say, speak about how things are going with
okay, I actually had does everybody know who Catherine is? Is that a yes? No? It's been interesting. I've been canvassing with her, and in the process discovered that everybody seems to know who Sherry Hall is, but they don't. We all know who Sherry Hall is, right?
Yes.
The current county clerk. Everybody knows who she is, but Catherine doesn't have that name familiarity, although she is gaining it. And there are requests coming in for her. She had run out of yard signs, wasn't going to get more, and requests started coming in. So they are now starting to pop up. There's been a lot of canvassing. I haven't been doing so much of canvassing myself. I've done other things, but a lot of canvassing. And I'm hoping that she's gaining enough name recognition. One of the problems, I think, and how Sherry Hall has managed to preserve that job over 20 years. Am I right? Yeah, I think I am. 20 years is hard to imagine, but because there's been a history of problems in her office that got much, much worse in May, clearly. That's probably the most egregious of it. But there's a good chance people, for all kinds of reasons, but one of them may be people just don't go far enough down the ballot. Mm-hmm. And so you vote for the people at the top, the well-known races, and just don't make it down there. One person in canvassing, one of the people said, oh, I didn't know it was an elected position. That person thought that Sherry would probably be fired. Well, nobody can fire her. It has to be the voters. So it seems to be going well, but it is just that I think our problem is the name recognition. I was prepared to, and if people know who they are, who know enough about both the candidates, you may not need this, but I would still urge people to take a look at clackamasvoice.org, and I could write that in the chat. Raz, I'm not too good at this. That would do. Yeah, clackamasvoice.org is where you could learn about Catherine, more about Catherine, and also see the media coverage of both her and Sherry. And also there's an interview with Straight Talk, did an interview of both candidates, and I forget what else, but there's a lot on clackamasvoice.org for anybody who wants more information. And I have to say, older than I will generally admit to, but this is the first local politics that I've gotten involved in my entire adult life. And it's because one, the county clerk's office, the behavior is so egregiously bad, but also I have an immense amount of confidence in Catherine. She is a highly certified and experienced election specialist. She works in Multnomah County, but she lives in Clackamas. She's in West Lynn. And I don't know what else to say other than I will put the clackamasvoice.org up there.
Oh,
So,
we already have it. You're in good shape. Excellent.
okay, good.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Meg, would you like to have your 4 minutes?
Yes, thank you so much. So like I said earlier, I'm working with the Libra Forde campaign. Libra's running for Clackamas County Commissioner. In different counties across Oregon, county commission is done in a more specific way. So like in Washington County, if you're running for a district position, you're only on the ballot in the district of the county that you're running in. And that's like that in a lot of counties. In Clackamas, no matter what position you're running for, you are running countywide. And that makes this a very difficult race. It makes this one where we've a lot of ground to cover. And especially with a candidate who is so dynamic, who is so incredibly powerful as a person. We're trying to get Libra as many places as she can go. I don't know if anyone's ever heard her speak, but really getting her all across the county has been our main goal, because that's all really that you need to do. She is out this week. She's slowly coming back. She had a hip replacement surgery last week, which came at quite a surprising time for her and the campaign, but was something that got put off through COVID. And so we need all the help we can get right now with canvassing, phone banking, talking to your neighbors. We've got some postcards. We've got a lot of different ways we can get involved. And she definitely needs the help getting out there. Knocking doors right now is a struggle for her. She's still working on walking at this point, and she's coming back from this surgery, and she's recovering like a champ. But she really is. She's an important candidate in this race. She's running against a longtime incumbent who has the largest habit of being the sole no vote, just because when he doesn't understand something, when he doesn't like something, he doesn't work to change it. He just votes no, and has been really pushing the message that Libra is inexperienced in some way. We find that really coded and really disgraceful. She has 25 years of executive leadership experience. She's run several large nonprofits, businesses. She's worked to start her own nonprofits, and she's managed large teams with large budgets, just like Clackamas County. So she's incredibly experienced professionally. She's also had the personal experience of being houseless in Clackamas County after an incident of domestic violence. So she's seeing kind of the service desert that's out there, and she wants to do this job to help people. So she's would be the first Black woman on the Clackamas County Commission. She would be if elected, the commission would swing progressive. So this is a really important race. This is a really important candidate to get behind, and I will drop in the chat a link to get involved. But I really appreciate you guys taking the time and letting me come out here and talk about what an amazing person she is.
No, thank you, Meg. That was very well stated. And it's been a privilege. So now it's the 4 minutes of the Mason campaign. I'm going to jump in with what I hope are some brief introductory remarks. And that is being able to have literature carried among 4 campaigns, really led by, I think the coordination is led by Erica and the Jamie McLeod-Skinner team. That has been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, those 4 campaigns, really amplification of impact by getting out there. We have canvassing dates up. I think Jamie is sending teams out just regularly, so there are still opportunities. The remark that I want to make is more of a, I guess, personal and an educator perspective. And that is, as I look back on my own history of engagement, it very much is a step by step. And I've had opportunities over the years where I amped up my engagement. I'll spare you all the saga, but it's very much like a ladder, and different times would kind of call me out. The excitement of the times, or where I was living, where there was more engagement that was easy to step into. So I want to acknowledge that for each of us, I think it is an individual journey. And the more I get engaged, I am just so persuaded about the urgency of this time. And it's hard when I see the disconnect. I've had an opportunity to work in climate change education leadership. So really looking at what some of the numbers are from the IPCC reports and the prognostications of where we're headed. And it's absolutely terrifying. And as a student of history, looking at some of the dynamics around civic instability and how we can lose democracies, how we can flip into civil wars, and just things like that. My background working in the domestic abuse field also gives me some insight into what makes people switch to violent behavior, and what some of the symptoms are, the signals are that that's beginning to happen. So for all those reasons, I'm incredibly dialed into this race and feel the urgency. I understand people are very tired. And there's so much good work to do. And to me, one of the saving graces is that when we're in this work together, it is enlightening and inspiring and energizing. And so when I think about Canby and folks who maybe feel isolated or unsupported from the larger Democratic community, I'm thinking, what can we do to help support and make some of those connections so folks can take whatever that next step is in their level of engagement and feel some of that satisfaction. So that being said, Katie, would you like to speak to some of the things that our campaign is doing and could still benefit from if folks in Canby want to jump on board? And you're muted. And Dean, do you want to be ready to go in case Katie runs out of things to say?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I just want to reiterate the collaboration with campaigns has been, I think, not just helpful, but powerful. Those up and down ballot selections and opportunities has been great. So coordinating with Jamie's team, Catherine's team, Libra's team, anytime we are out canvassing in Canby, we are dropping lit for everybody. Same thing over in Hood River. We coordinate with Darcy Long's team. How she's running for.
Okay, anyway, I'm mute.
And so I think that's great. But yes, we need feet on the ground right now. So canvassing. If that's not your thing, we can plug you into text banking or phone banking.
And if someone were new to canvassing, what would be the way to introduce them to that? Or what is it? What's that process like to start?
Well, we'll get you out on the date. We'll set you up. We'll meet with you and walk you through it. If you have a smartphone, just keep it charged, and it's very intuitive. It really doesn't take too much time. We'll supply talking points. If you're unsure about it, we have a buddy system for you. So I did put up some links in the chat. If anybody's interested in joining or sharing, that would be fabulous.
All right, thank you. Dean, do you have any closing words?
No, really. I mean, I think people, especially here, sort of understand the canvassing challenge.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So, building the neighborhood leader program in Canby. description, impact, and next steps. So I'm excited that we have two guests who are going to be able to speak. I think each of them will have about 5 minutes. And that is Susan Drew and Debbie Ferrer. So Susan, why don't you lead us off if you're ready to go?
Hi. Well, does everybody here knows what neighborhood leader is?
Why don't you go ahead and explain it, just in
I
case
don't know the
folks.
whole background of it, although we've been doing it. There's some feedback. I don't know what that's from. Can you hear it? Is that okay?
Yeah, are you on your phone also?
No, I'm just on the computer, but it's. Can you hear it okay, or does it sound like a double?
It's a little double, but we'll forge ahead.
Anyway.
I think it's Dean.
It's what?
I think it's Dean.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, hi. Anyway, so we've been doing this for, I think, almost 10 years, and in House District 52, and I am new to Canby, and I was very pleased that there are 8 people, and I think Canby used to be House District 39, and Naila Tesh was really the House District leader there for a while, and knew most of these people, and got them interested in being neighborhood leaders and things like that. I think you said that there aren't any precinct committee people there, right?
I believe that is true. Yeah.
It's hard to believe, but anyway, so let's see. So anyway, people say they agreed to do it, and then we cut them a turf. It used to be 35 households with Democrats in them, at least one Democrat. And then now we've kind of upped it to about 50 because we don't have enough neighborhood leaders, and we're kind of trying to cover the turf. But Canby's a neat kind of thing. We've got anyway in quarters, but there are a lot of households that could use a neighborhood leader, and the neighborhood leader gets the slate card and has some kind of a either walks it and talks to people and knows them, which is the ideal, or they mail to them. Like out in Sandy in the rural areas, a lot of people are mailing, and they have a nice cover letter that explains, that like in this case, we're really emphasizing downvoting and the county commissioners and the county clerk. And in this one letter I saw, I didn't even mention Earl Blumenauer because he doesn't need to be mentioned, right? Because nobody's going to run against him. So, but anyway, it's a lot of work. The party, puts all this stuff together and to get those lists out. And but when people do campaign after campaign or election after election, knock on those same doors, and people get to know you, and they kind of expect you to come there and have a slate card. And Bill Street gives a wonderful, bunch of trainings about it, and he really likes that door knocking thing, and some people don't. But anyway, so but from my point of view, I mean, it is like an army of volunteers.
Mhm.
That makes it always kind of tricky, coordinating volunteers. You just got to go with whatever you got. So things happen and stuff, and databases are, but each time we have another campaign, the DPO, the Democratic Party of Oregon, seems to improve the database a little bit, and make it more workable for everybody.
So question, Susan, because you are the person who is working with those 8 Canby NLPs, if they have any questions or they're struggling or they just want to talk about a really negative interaction or maybe even share a positive interaction, how can they reach out to you? And, would you welcome that kind of collaboration, just so they
I
feel
would,
supported?
every time I send out anything, I put my name and my phone number on it, and I tried, talking to people and stuff. People are very busy. I mean, it's just scary, how busy everybody is, it seems like. But yeah, and like people write different letters or cover notes. Is this last a year ago or 2 years ago, I guess, is one woman who was a teacher. She wrote the greatest little note because she was saying, well, when you're a teacher, it's got to be short, it's got to be punchy, it's got to be this and that. And it was just really neat. But, I like to see everybody's different approach to it. And, hand addressing, if you're mailing, it's supposed to make it a lot more likely that people will open the envelope. And and I think it's really great. I still just really get off on meeting more and more and more Democrats, who have all these different approaches to what's happening in their neck of the woods, like out in Beaver Creek, where, lots of stuff is happening. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
So,
Awesome. Oh, okay. Well, we're continuing our race pell-mell here. Again, Susan, thank you for that. Debbie Ferrer is here, and Debbie has the opportunity not only to talk about the Neighborhood Leader Program, but if you want to, as a way of sort of expanding the universe of what's available for Democratic engagement, would you speak about your work with the non-affiliated voters through COIN?
Sure. I want to just echo what we just heard about the Neighborhood Leader Project. I just find it to be really satisfying, officer, and then also I'm the organizer for Wasco County. So it's really satisfying to help other people get engaged and find that satisfying work. So and we have good results as neighborhood leader projects do all across Oregon. I'm also part of the COIN leadership team, and one of the things that we worked on, started last year and then put it into practice this year, was to kind of design a program that might ultimately be similar to the Neighborhood Leader Project, but that reaches out to non-affiliated voters. And so what we're doing right now is kind of the first stage. We have canvassers knocking on doors, and we've also done a couple of phone banks, but I think the knocking on doors is generally more successful. We knock on doors and we just ask the non-affiliated voters what kinds of issues matter most to them, because we don't really know what issues matter to these voters. We know what issues matter to Democrats, we know what issues matter to Republicans, but the non-affiliated voters, who make up 1 million voters in Oregon, about a third of all voters in Oregon, are largely unknown to us. And so our first goal is to find out what issues matter to them. And then actually that's kind of our second goal, but in the process of discussing that, so it's kind of a deep canvassing technique, in the process of discussing, identify whether these voters are leaning progressive, conservative. And, we tag them and record the data in bank. And if they lean progressive, then we want to go back to those voters during election time, get out the vote time, and encourage them to vote, because you probably all know that non-affiliated voters also don't vote as regularly as Democrats and Republicans. So the main idea is to try to identify more voters who will vote for progressive candidates and causes, and then be able to reach them at get out the vote time. That's about it.
Nice. Okay, off the top of your head, have you memorized that statistic about average voter turnout, and then if they get the lit drop from NLP, and then if they actually have the conversation with their NLP?
Well, let's see. I can't tell you what the statistic is statewide, but I can tell you in our last election here in Wasco County, we had voter turnout for Democrats. Now, remember, with NLP, we're only knocking on Democrats' doors. So the Democratic turnout in Wasco County for the May primary this year was about 49%. But for our neighborhood leaders who knocked on doors, the range was, for those voters whose doors, and now keep in mind, they don't necessarily knock on all the doors. I mean, they knock on all the doors, but they don't necessarily talk to everyone. So like when I knock on doors, I maybe talk to 30 to 40% of my list. So we're not even talking to everyone, but those who we don't talk to, we leave a slate card with. And so, for the neighborhood leaders, areas that are canvassed, our turnout rate was 65 to 70%. So that's up from 50%. And we also have a bunch of 49% actually. We also have a bunch of folks who aren't comfortable canvassing and they write postcards. And some of them are, quite good at writing their postcards. They decorate them. They, take real time and effort to make them really nice. And some of those have as high as 60% turnout. So, we go from 49% on up to 60% just for getting postcards to them. And we do quite a few postcards, especially in the rural areas that we can't walk to.
Nice. Thank you very, very much. Okay. I'm just going to do a time check. We are at 7:33 and I think, are moving quite well. The next item on the agenda is Democratic Precinct Committee people. Before we get there, I think we can take a few minutes in case there are any questions or observations based on what has been said to this point. Anybody want to chime in? Okay. Precinct committee people. What do they do? What's involved? And how does a person sign up? Who among those assembled is in the best position to explain PCPs?
I can take that one.
Okay, go for it.
So a precinct committee person is an elected position. It's the most grassroots of all elected positions in the country. 250 people. So a PCP represents 250 voters in that precinct. So for every 250 people in your precinct, there will be a precinct committee person. And so you're the grassroots organizer between those 250 people and the rest of the elected officials. So you are elected, but you are also the conduit to help connect all levels, from county commissioner to all the way up to president. So you're the person who funnels the information from all the elected people and lets the rest of the people in your precinct know what's going on. So like next Tuesday is the last day to register to vote. So that's what I'm sending out right now to all the people on my email distribution list. It's like you have to register to vote by Tuesday in order to get, if you've changed your address, if you want to change party affiliation, whatever, it has to happen by Tuesday for it to take effect, because ballots get mailed out Wednesday. So Tuesday's the last day. And then just get out the vote, letting them know where the polling places are. And those are drop sites in Oregon, obviously, because we've been voting by mail for 24 years now. So just the local places. We also will have, depending on the election, sometimes we have an unofficial drop box that we host across, again, from the school. And so people can drop their ballots off there and we take it and to drop it off at an official ballot box drop. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question with that. So if someone decided, hey, I'm gonna move from Goose Egg and Canby, I'm gonna be one of the precinct committee people, what would be the process for them to get on the ballot? And then who would they kind of report to or get activity suggestions from? I'm assuming they are then connected with Clackamas County, but does anybody know about kind of what the next steps are for someone who wants to jump into that and explore?
So there's two ways to become a precinct committee person. You can be elected or appointed. Elections happen in May of even years. So we just had precinct committee elections this last May, and that position is good for 2 years. So the next precinct committee person election will be May of 2024. But you can still become a precinct committee person by going to your county party, so the Clackamas County Democrats, and saying, you know, I'd like to be a PCP, and they'll walk you through the process. So you make an application, and then they appoint you, and then you're a precinct committee person. And some people choose to do that because they don't want their name necessarily out on a document that goes out to all these Democratic households. But there are definitely perks to being an elected PCP. One of the here in House District 52 that we, because Anna Williams resigned early, we had to choose the slate of candidates who would replace her, who would be appointed to fill the rest of her term. So that's a job that the Democratic PCPs are the only people who do. So that's one of the roles and responsibilities that PCPs fill.
Excellent. Any other questions? That was a great summary. All right. Well, for those of you who've held on, and I think we're still at 2 actual Canbyites, let us take a moment. If you can go to your Canby Dems meeting, we are now on number 7, which is choose your priorities. And if you could start by clicking on A, 7A, and then going down to, it's the bottom of page 1. And you can just put your initials. So like Kathy, I think it's your last name's Whiting, right? Okay. So Kathy and DB for David. And if you want to just on that document, scroll through there and put a number, a 0 if you absolutely don't think it's important, or a 1, 2, 3 if it's a really high thing. And just
I'm not sure what we're doing here.
Okay, so this is really just for the 2 people from Canby.
I'm from Canby.
Yeah, so if
Okay,
you would,
yeah. But what am I looking at? And what am I supposed to be looking at?
So Katie has copied this into the chat, and the chat, do you know how to get to chat?
Oh, I used to.
It's okay. It's the 3rd icon over from the right on my screen.
Oh, from the right. 1, 2. There's
Thank
a
you,
hand
Eric.
raised. The hand raised one?
Nope,
No.
it's the 3rd one
next-
over. It's far right. And do you have a Mac or a PC?
PC.
Okay.
It's right, should be right next to the
There's
little
a
people icon.
pardon me?
Should be right next to the little people icon on the bottom right-hand
Oh,
side.
over there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I'm in the wrong place. There we go. All right, got it.
And then I put the link. It says priorities, and there's a little
Priorities,
Google.
got it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And then if you go down to the bottom of page 1, you'll see we've got a column lined up for you. And if you would just take a few minutes, and the rest of you too, I would invite you, because I think we are all going back to our home Democratic groups. And if you would take a look at what the options are, and obviously don't write anything down, but be thinking about how you would assess the importance of what different groups could be working on. So we can kind of be with them in spirit while they work on that. And let's see what we can get done in the next.
Yeah, I'm still not clear on what I'm doing.
Okay,
I've got this Canby Dems priorities.
Okay.
So now what do I do with it?
So scroll down.
Down to Canby folks only, that one?
That's it. Yes, and you've got a
What should
column
we
there.
focus on? So what am I putting in those columns? I see a 3 and a 2. Is this in terms of Oh, there it is right there. For each, put from 0 to 3 high. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Phew.
You're doing great.
Canvases and signs for can.
And if any of the other folks, and this is where anybody can weigh in under other suggestions, if you want to write ideas for what you think other rural Democratic groups can or should be doing, you are welcome to write those suggestions in
So
there.
we're talking with organizing, canvassing, and lawn signs. We're talking about this election, or we're talking more broadly?
Just generally, like if a group is going to get started,
Gotcha.
that's
Okay.
going to last the next 5-10 years, wouldn't that be nice?
Okay. So, all right, gotcha.
And David, when you're finished, as you may have noticed, when you're finished with your chart, which you are, if you would jump, go to the top of that chart and go to the form, the preference form, and fill that bad boy out. About another minute, hopefully. Although, honestly, if folks are willing to hang with us, we could take another couple minutes. And after this, I think what I'm going to invite folks to do for our summary and wrap up is to give everybody like a minute and a half to talk about what they're already doing, what, if anything, you're inspired to jump into or deepen your engagement with, or something you're excited for the community as a whole to work on, just so we get everybody's voice in the room before we close. Okay, David, you're moving along very expeditiously. I just added that North Clackamas Chamber debate link in, and if you would like to take a look at that, that could be a thing where the Democrats in attendance could use backup. There is a chance that there will be some real hostility from the Republicans present. So we're hoping to get some folks who are willing to drive up to Oregon City to help out. Okay, great. Thank you, Katie. And then, Kathy, do you see up at the top of the chart you just filled out?
Uh-huh.
You see the link to preference form? It says back to preference form.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I've got something blocking it, I think. I don't know. No. Yeah, there's something, a pop-up blocking. Oh, all right, just leave that. I'll just say okay there. Nope, that's not. No, I'm not seeing the link.
Okay.
Wait, maybe over here. Ah, here we go. There's go back to summary.
It says back to preference form.
And I'm looking for preference form. And
So all you have to do is click on it. Click on where it says preference form.
but I don't see that.
Okay, and so what
That's-
you'll do is once you've clicked on it, there should be a link that pops up. And then you click on that link so that the link is just a little thing below it.
I'm not. No, I don't have. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm in a Google document of some sort. Is that what I'm supposed to be in?
You are supposed to be in a form.
Well, it's a
So-
form that I can fill out, but it's a Google
Yes.
Doc. It's a Google Doc.
It's a Google form.
Yeah, right. The Google Doc form. Yeah.
There we go.
So it says Canby Dim preferences. It wants your name, future
No,
meeting
No,
locations.
no. I don't have that.
Okay, so let's try to put that in chat. And now we're going back to the screen
Got my
where.
name in here, but I don't see the preferences.
Okay, Katie, just if you can come back to the tab that has the meeting where all of us are. I know that this is a lot to handle.
I just put a link to the actual form in the chat if that makes it easier.
Oh. Okay.
And this one is very short. And maybe what we can do, Kathy, once you feel comfortable that, yeah, you've got that open, we can start doing our wrap up and you
Yeah,
can.
it's so I don't know what to do with it, and I don't want to be taking up people's time with this.
Do you see something that's kind of a light purple theme? And it says Canby Dems preferences. It's a form.
No, I do not see it. At the
Okay.
top of I'm in this Google Doc. At the top of mine, there's a blue thing that says share.
No.
That's what's
Okay,
that's-
so ignore the documents and come back to the tab that has the meeting.
okay.
Where
I'm
you'll
trying-
see some of our faces.
there we go.
Okay.
I'm
And
back.
do you have your chat window open?
I do. Yeah, I think I do.
Okay. So Katie at 7:49 went ahead and copied in the link to that.
Okay,
form.
Gotcha. Yes.
All right.
Click on that. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So just
On
put her
that.
away. And then others of us, I think, are
Okay,
going to.
there's the preferences. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so fill that out.
Yeah. Just fill that out while we're.
Okay.
People are kind of sharing their last minute thoughts
Yeah.
here.
Good.
And I can lead off. So what I'm asking about is clear. A minute and a half up to kind of one of the simplest ways that I can think about it is what am I going to take away from this meeting? First of all, I would say I'm very appreciative of everybody who showed up tonight. And even though this was a small group here, what strikes me is how the cumulative efforts over time of a small group of people makes a difference. I'm particularly struck by those voter turnout rates because when you think about the fact that in this Senate district, Republicans outnumber Democrats by 1%. Yes, in the past, the non-affiliateds who are 40% have leaned red, but imagine what would happen if we had a 10% advantage in voter turnout. I mean, it's a total game changer. So that is on my mind. And the other thing that's on my mind is what I mentioned earlier. I was reminded in talking about that on-ramp of deeper engagement. I mean, if it's deeper, it maybe sounds like it's going down, but anyway, everybody's on their own journey. And I'm really interested in what we can do to communicate with folks who may be feeling very discouraged or isolated And this is David and Kathy, where I hope you'll maybe feel comfortable enough with what happened tonight that you'll reach out to a couple friends and say, you know, email, fill out the RSVP form and ask to get the recording of this, because there is good work to be done. It can be done in these little steps. People can choose that next thing that they feel most drawn to. So that's what I'm taking away. Katie, would you feel comfortable going next?
Sure. I think we talked about this before, but the word community comes to mind, and that as we might feel isolated in our thoughts and actions at times, especially in campaigns, but this really is a team sport, and we need everybody.
Thank you. Anybody want to go next?
Yes, I would just like to encourage folks to take it one step at a time, building a Democratic presence in Canby. Don't take on too much and then maybe get discouraged, and yet don't take on too little. Try and find that right balance there. It's a one step at a time thing. It brings other people in. But, you know, at the same time, I always tell people sustainability applies to activism too. You got to do it at the level you can keep doing it and not burn yourself out. So find what you can do, find what works, reach out to people, and but be prepared to give it a little time and just accept that pace. And then at some point there will be a Democratic presence in Canby, and it'll change a lot, but you got to give it a few years to reach that point.
Got 36 seconds. Do you want to say anything about our county commission because of what you just said?
Do I? Well, we have one Democrat on the county commission, and it's replaced by another one. We still don't have a majority, but we think maybe we will next time. But again, it's just been a gradual process. Candidate recruitment, of course, was very important. I think for Clackamas, that's a very different story, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Next person to go. Stephanie, how about you?
Yes. Start where you are. Think about where you are and what's the easiest, lowest risk, highest reward step that you can take. If you do a book club or a knitting group or anything like a parent teacher group, just start talking about the candidates with other people. I think you'll be surprised at how many people feel like you do, but they don't want to be the first person to say it because they think there are a minority. But then you start talking with other people and you find out 2/3 of the people that you hang out with are also interested and engaged. And it, you know, you can invite them over just for a debate watch party. Anything, you know, serve food, have fun. You can even do like the candidate bingo. Make it fun. Oh, so you make up a bingo card, and you know the first person who like takes a drink of water, then you put a token on that space, or you know says the word, I don't know, pick the word gun or abortion or whatever, you know, who's the first person that says that, and then you try to fill up your bingo board. And you can have really tchotchke little prizes like a little blue donkey or, you know, a necktie with donkeys on it, or I don't know, something fun.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Or actually, David, how about we shake it up a little bit and get some of the Canby voices going?
All right, thank you. So yeah, I mean, most people here in Canby who knew that I was on city council for a short period of time know that I've spent the last 14 and a half years in the Coast Guard. So mission first. And that's where I joined city council to try and make some sort of a difference. And unfortunately for me, it did burn me out. But I think it did inspire a few people to try and keep working at it. And that's, I think, admirable. Now the other point on that is, name recognition, that really came up, and kind of struck the chord with me. Name recognition is, both good and bad. Even negative attention is attention, right? And so someone who has, their name in the headlines all the time, is still going to get just as much attention as someone who doesn't. And so that's where I think Canby needs to, organize even better, is promoting the people whose names aren't in the headlines all the time, getting their names out there, getting their names public and visible. And so I think that's something we can definitely do. It just takes a little bit of prodding.
Excellent. Thank you. Kathy or Debbie, which of you is feeling called?
Can I say, I was fussing with that form I was trying to fill out when this started, and I still was unable to submit it. So I don't even want to talk about what that problem is. And in the process, however, I've lost track of what people are addressing.
What are you going to leave here thinking about?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I had to organize my thoughts to even answer that question.
Okay. Okay, Debbie, do you want to jump in, and then maybe we can loop back to Kathy at the end?
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add because there have been some really good suggestions, but I like the suggestion of starting small and starting easy, and the simplest for the highest return. And one of the things that is pretty low, I guess, low anxiety for a lot of new volunteers is having the postcard party. And so, put your slate on a postcard. It's pretty inexpensive, to print postcards. The postage is kind of expensive, but, maybe you can have an ice cream social like we talked about to raise a little bit of money for postage. And a lot of times if people know what their donation is going to go for, like postage, then, they're more likely to donate. Anyway, it's, pretty easy, but, fairly high reward. And, we have a group that meets twice a month to write letters to voters or postcards. And, then it also encourages people to, to go and do some more on their own. So I mentioned that we have about 40 neighborhood leaders this cycle, but during the during the 2020 election, we had over 100 people, and that was, of course, still during COVID, but we had over 100 people who were writing postcards, and they were, writing multiple sets of 50 postcards. So, that's a pretty easy one to do, and then those volunteers can go on to become other kinds of volunteers later. I guess that was my point. It's like a good entry-level volunteer position.
Thank you. All right, Kathy.
Okay. I was involved a little bit politically in Canby many, many years ago. I chaired the library board during that horrible period. I don't know if there's anybody here who remembers that, when we were trying to get a new library built. And it was the actions of our city council and our mayor were opposed to it. And the whole experience was, I can't even describe it. That whole experience so badly turned me off on anything political in this city. We did get a new library finally, but it was because Brian Hodson wanted to turn it out to the voters, and he got the surprise that the voters were overwhelmingly in favor of the library. So that left me so embittered that I wasn't inclined to ever touch Canby politics again. I have to say that this meeting has helped tremendously that way. So that's probably what I'll leave thinking about.
Thank you so much. Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful note to end on. And let's just give a shout out to anybody who might be watching this after the fact, who's interested in Canby Democratic and progressive activity, and/or we'll see you out there. I hope. I'm excited. There are so many people that we've been meeting as we've been canvassing. And so I hope that a tree grows in Canby.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Have a
you.
great time, and we'll see you out there.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.